Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lloyd with the CBC Evening News. We begin with some sad news. A 56-year-old St. Michael man is dead after the tractor in which he was working fell more than 100 feet over the edge of a quarry at Carrington's in St. Philip this afternoon. Peter Thorne has that story.
It was just after 1:30 when Anthony Bird Walcott lost his life at Carrington Quarry, St. Philip. The tractor operator of over 25 years was working on the edge of the quarry with another colleague when the rock broke away, resulting in the tractor and Mr. Walcott falling over 150 feet to the bottom. His left leg was reportedly severed in the accident. Quarry owner Peter Hunt was too distraught to speak on camera. Almost a dozen police officers and 2 fire tenders with 8 men under the command of Station Officer Denton Foster converged at the scene. A co-worker who was in the lunchroom told CBC what he saw following the accident.
I was in the lunchroom, just getting ready to come back home. And I hear it.
Oh, you hear it? You fall?
I hear the commotion and the rubber, like, you know? But then I just see a whole white area of stuff. I couldn't see nothing actually. Then I went look to make sure you signal the other man. They tell me you gotta be down there because you know, they track here and everything come over. So then we went look for you down there and see down there. Recognize you because you had on your vest, you could see and the rubber, but he fluorescent green vest on. So you see what probably was on there and he was still living and everything.
Well, he was
So he talking with you, but you know, you ain't getting to send nothing.
Mr. Walcott's friend Ricky Brown described him as a very experienced worker and a good man.
As far as I know, he's a very nice person. You don't get him nothing on him. Just work hard. Basically, that's as much as I can tell you.
It was about 3:20 this afternoon when Mr. Walcott's wife of 8 years, Colleen, arrived at the scene. She told us she had been trying to reach him most of the afternoon since they talked daily, but was unable to make any contact. She said she had a hunch that something was terribly wrong following a bad dream last night, and when she took a taxi to Carrington Quarry, her worst fears were confirmed.
I was calling all day and I didn't hear him. So then a friend told me that she heard the place cave in. So I said, it is Anthony, because I was calling him all day, and if he's working and he can't hear, he would call me back when he get a chance. I said, this is too long, it can't be him. And then his daughter called and said, if anything happened to her father, I said, man, why you here? She said she heard on the news and something happened. I said, it is Anthony. I know it was him because I was calling all day and I didn't hear him. Usually when he get here, he would say, get here, and then we communicate during the day, everything okay. So I know something has happened.
Mr. Walker, an employee of Caribbean Aggregates Limited, leaves to mourn his wife and 3 children. Peter Thorne, CBC News.
A charter for students is being worked on for schools across the island. The document is expected to become a reality in a few months' time. Education Minister Ronald Jones says it is important for students to have a voice.
Let's say, for example, a child is taken before a principal, but the child doesn't have an opportunity or a chance to say, look, these are the relevant circumstances. This is why I became or didn't become, or I was pulled in or I wasn't pulled in, and to defend themselves. And they should also have the right to have someone who can intercede deliberately on their behalf. I think we've had so many suspensions over time for all kinds of incidences. I'm not saying that they're right, wrong, because I'm not the participant in the exercise. But once we can give young people that right, that voice to say, look, these were the circumstances. This is how this evolved. This is why I don't believe that I should be punished.
Minister Jones adds, however, that while students have the right to express themselves, it must be done respectfully. He was speaking to the media on the sidelines of a youth leadership conference held as part of Education Month activities over at the Lloyd Erskine Sanford Center. And it is from there that Lisa Broom filed this report.
Several 4th and 5th form students from secondary schools across the island, as you can see here behind me, are meeting to discuss the education system. They've been invited as part of Education Month activities. Now, I had the opportunity to speak to some of them about some of the issues, some of the positives, and their vision for the future.
The Young Leaders Forum got a solid thumbs up from the 15 and 16-year-olds who attended this morning. Deshaun Walcott of Dighton Griffith was one of them.
People come from different backgrounds, so this brings together everyone and get all ideas about where people came from and how things around them are. the surroundings. So I think it's a very good idea.
The Allen School's Jakayla Hewitt agrees and says more sessions like these can help to solve some of the problems in schools, a few of which she highlighted.
Lack of school pride and lack of responsibility, and this leads to indiscipline, and then we are faced with the problem are saying that they have more indisciplined students in the school than they are positive. So I believe forums like these allow the media, and not only the media but also other people in the world and Barbados, to see that there's a lot of positive things going on. There are positive students, and we will be the leaders and the changers of the world.
She also suggested that the quote-unquote troublemakers be invited as well.
It said that you can't be a leader without any followers, or you're just taking a walk in the park. They are the leaders in where they come from, their home, their environment, and therefore they'll be able to have followers to help change their behavior if their behavior is changed.
Pierre Cook is not happy with the way some children are portrayed by the public.
You can't plaster everyone under one label. That label does not cover everyone because someone fights, because someone is engaged in some activity that's not up to standards to what is of a youth. You can't plaster all the youth under that because it's not the title of the youth. The youth speak for themselves. We're here to speak for the youth, and thus I think the public should see us as that and not see us as the problems that are blown out of proportion and that are plastered on media or whatever.
And Parkinson Memorial's Tyra Roberts thinks peer pressure is one of the major problems, but she has this solution.
What I think can solve some of these problems if a counseling at school and somebody teachers actually sit down and talk to them, and something to help boost their confidence in themselves and having a high self-esteem.
Overall, the students we spoke to were excited to take part in the forum and had some bright and positive suggestions for the future. Lisa Broom, CBC News.
Well, the head of the Barbados Union of Teachers says the level of violence among school students has not yet reached a worrying stage. In fact, Pedro Shepherd thinks the extensive access to technology may be blowing the situation out of proportion.
We have always had violence in schools. It wasn't portrayed the way it is now because the technology was not available then. But I know of fights on school buses when I was going to school. So we've always had these things. The level of information that's available to our students now is greater than before. And students are curious, so I guess when you see certain actions being portrayed by students, it may be simply out of a case of just curiosity, and not necessarily that the students are indeed bad students, but just curious students trying things that they see other people, adults, trying.
And Mr. Shepherd believes that schools are, for the most part, handling the instances of violence.
I know we had a case at one secondary school last year, which was dealt with at the level of the school, but it only surfaced in the social media a few weeks ago. And this is happening because once, in my opinion, once one school is portrayed, persons then look for other schools that they too can portray. So as to give a case where my school is not bad, other schools are indeed just as bad or worse. But some of the pictures that we are seeing are not new pictures. They're pictures of maybe a few months, a year, cases dealt with already, but just surfacing for the first time.
Well, getting students to take part in physical activity, particularly in the nation's secondary schools, remains a challenge. Pediatrician Professor Anne St. John says many of them, mainly girls, are coming up with all sorts of excuses not to participate. She says a new initiative, the Barbados Childhood Obesity Prevention Program, will soon be rolled out in an effort to combat obesity. According to the medical official, it first has to be approved by the cabinet. Professor St. John was a guest on the CBC TV 8 program, Morning Barbados.
We've incorporated work for the Ministry of Education and Health. They're the main ministries, also industry, agriculture, sport, all to be involved because we find our children are too sedentary. They are not having enough exercise and their diet is adverse for them. They're having too big portions, they're having the wrong foods, and it's just worse and worse. And adults, it's really reached epidemic proportions now.
Well, more news ahead, but first we want to get your take on this question. Do you think the use of social media is making the violence among young people appear worse than it really is? You can text yes or no to short code 8111 and we'll have the results for you at the end of our news.
Today, Sebastian Daniels is teaching his daughter to drive. He's a little nervous, but he shouldn't be. Because no matter what happens, his auto insurance from Sagicor General has them covered. And besides, it turns out she's a natural.
Nice job.
Sagicor General, wise financial thinking for life.
Here comes a very special time of the year. You're dreaming of the colors that will be everywhere. Harris is your first choice. Color your Christmas.
Make Harris Paints your first choice this Christmas for a whole lot less. There's 20% off Perma, 25% off kitchen and bathroom, and 30% off all Ultima Plus paints, plus the ever-durable Turtletex Natural for just $98. So dream in color this Christmas with Harris Paints, the Caribbean champions of color.
Harris is your first choice. Color your Christmas.
Naturally better orchard.
Time for fun, bring out the sun. Nutritious, so delicious. Way less sugar, no artificial sweeteners. Orchard, a natural choice. Orchard, with real fruit juice. Orchard, a celebration in each cup.
Orchard 250 ml juice drinks now deliciously improved. Free of artificial sweeteners. More natural goodness with between 33 to 55% less added sugar. Orchard, a perfectly natural choice.
Nestle. Good food, good life.
Distributed by Massey Distribution.
More great cities just got closer. The Scotiabank Aero Platinum MasterCard is now even better. Fly to New York, Miami, Orlando, and Fort Lauderdale with just 20,000 Scotia points. With your new Scotiabank Aero Platinum MasterCard, you'll receive a welcome bonus of 10,000 Scotia points, so you can enjoy the cities you love most sooner than ever. Apply today. Call 426-7000 or visit your nearest branch. Scotiabank. Discover what's possible.
A release at the FCCA Cruise Conference and Trade Show in Mexico shows Barbados scoring high as a destination in several areas. The country received high ratings in areas of satisfaction with the variety of things to see and do, the friendliness of residents, the shopping experience, overall prices of the destination, taxis, and local transport. Some 61% of those polled indicated that they will recommend Barbados to family and friends, and about 51% said that they are likely to return. 87% said the destination met their expectations. The report indicated that Barbados had a cruise spend of about $57.3 million during the 2014-2015 cruise year. St. Martin led all the destinations with nearly $423 million, followed by the Bahamas with $373 million, and Mexico third in overall expenditures with $365 million. The study also says that the cruise sector provides 1,845 jobs in Barbados. Well, Colombian carrier Avianca has added Barbados to its itinerary. The airline is set to launch a new flight from its home base in Bogota to the island starting December 2nd. The new flights will operate twice a week on Wednesday and Sunday and will have both business and economy classes. And this is the 6th airport served by Avianca in the Caribbean. The airline flies from Bogota to Aruba, Curacao, Havana, Cuba, Punta Cana, and Santo Domingo. In 1966, the garrison Savannah formed the backdrop for the birth of this nation, and 50 years on, the historic area will be the focal point for Barbados' Golden Jubilee. As the clock winds down, preparations are ongoing for this important day in the island's history. Today, many of those involved took part in a site visit at the garrison. This home to horse racing has been used over the years for the annual Independence Parade. On the tour were representatives of the Barbados Defense Force and key government departments and ministries, along with personnel from the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation and other media entities. The island's acting fire chief, Errol Maynard, is satisfied that most of the businesses in Swan Street have taken adequate steps to try and prevent any fires on their premises. He made the comments this morning while he and top officials of the fire service undertook a walkthrough of the area to ascertain how they are complying with fire prevention measures. Peter Thorne reports.
Acting Fire Chief Errol Maynard says they have been working to ensure that Swan Street is fully prepared to deal with any fire that may occur. He says fire prevention officers have been collaborating with business owners to ensure fire prevention measures are adhered to, and most of them observe the fire prevention codes.
Yes, many of them are. We still have a few that we need to work with. It's not a case, we recognize that in some cases it's an expensive endeavor to retrofit. Some of the businesses do not have the capacity to create an alternative exit. So we are working with them to put in compensatory factors that would compensate for the fact that they don't have an alternative exit. So yes, I would say that many of them are complying.
Mr. Maynard says the fire service is also satisfied that it can properly access Swan Street if a fire occurs, which is a far cry from what obtained in the past.
I'm comfortable with what I've seen. We recognize that most of the vendors are at the site, so if one of our trucks have to pass through this area, then it has free access. And those, even the vendors that we have seen, their equipment is mobile, so it can be easily moved.
Mr. Maynard also said several businesses have been able to install alternative exits in case a fire breaks out.
The rectifying of the buildings, we meant that there isn't any space at the side of them to put an exit. Those that have the space, we've seen they're putting in exits. And those that don't have space, we see business cooperating with each other that you can exit through one store if the other store is on fire or if there's an incident there.
Deirdre Thorne is the owner of Blessings Boutique, and she says they have taken the preventative measures very seriously.
As a requirement, we installed it was a requirement from the insurance. We installed the fire extinguisher and the smoke alarms in the store. For fire prevention, not that we would want to have a fire, but in case there's any fire, that we'd be better prepared.
At Harmony, a store that sells females' clothes, Assistant Manager Candace Chan told reporters they have installed an alternative exit into White's Alley for the safety of their 22 employees. Peter Thorne, CBC News.
Work is expected to get underway later this year on the proposed site for the new terminal facility in the River Bandstand. A two-story structure, once part of the old Queen's College compound, is being renovated to serve in that capacity. Director of the Transport Authority, Alex Linton, says cleanup work is being undertaken by the Ministry of Transport and Works to prepare that site. He revealed other plans for that area.
In the meantime, what we have done is we have started painting the lanes. We're going to do some, reorganization of how the PSC operators are laid out so to reduce the congestion and problems that are associated right now currently. But that will be all phased into the major project in due course. So we could be starting on the way before year end, and we can realize a new terminal structure in the very near future.
And use of the other portion of the terminal, located just a few meters away, is still under active consideration. Mr. Linton says the Transport Authority is hoping to tackle the issue of flooding as it upgrades the River Bandstand. Well, on this International Day for Disaster Reduction, focus was placed on potential hazards in relation to older Barbadians. Issues of concern to this cross-section of Barbadians were addressed during a panel discussion on disaster preparedness. It was hosted by the Barbados Association of Retired Persons at the LV Harcourt Lewis Training Center at the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Acting Deputy Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Captain Robert Herwood, says there are many hazards out there, including natural, chemical, and man-made. He says the natural hazards have taken a heavy toll on the region.
Either financially and in particular socially. We don't see it, but people recovering from these events are often stressed. Could you imagine losing everything that you had in your entire life in one swoop? Don't imagine it. It is not a good place to be. So by virtue of our geographic location, we are susceptible to a number of these hazards. By living in the Caribbean, as I said, we have accepted the risks associated with these hazards, and therefore we must prepare.
The Caribbean is full of individuals who must be rewarded for the work they are doing to better the lives of others and advance specific causes. This is according to the Chief Executive Officer of Ansel McAl Barbados Limited, Nicholas Mote. He was speaking at the presentation of a commemorative book entitled The Excellent Decade, which showcases outstanding Caribbean citizens who were recognized by the Anthony N. Sabga Caribbean Awards of Excellence. The book was presented to the National Library Service, the Barbados Community College, the Barbados Institute of Management and Productivity, and the American University at the Pomerine Hotel yesterday.
It's easy to celebrate celebrities, whether it be athletes or actors, actresses, and of the like. But there are a lot of people that do a lot of good work in the background. And if you look at the categories of the awards, such as community service, science, and the arts, the areas that this award focuses on is not given enough notice and highlighted enough. And when people do succeed and contribute a lot to the community in those areas, they don't get enough notice, enough recognition, enough publicity.
Still to come, and look at some of the stories making headlines across our region. But first, we want to hear from you on this question. Do you